All right, it's 7:31, so I guess we'll get going here. Welcome to What's Up Over Edmonton for the month of October 2021. My name is Jeff Robertson, and I'm a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Edmonton Centre. I'm just going to start my PowerPoint here. There we go. Hope everyone can see that. Okay, we always start these sessions with a picture of the Queen Elizabeth Planetarium, because when we originally thought this idea up, we were going to have these live at the Queen Elizabeth Planetarium, Canada's first public planetarium in Coronation Park in Edmonton, and it's just a short walk to the TELUS World of Science. Call this What's Up Over Edmonton because our skies here at 53 degrees north latitude are quite a bit different than what is shown in most of the popular astronomy publications for North America. They're usually centered around 40 or 45 degrees north latitude. This is the sky on July the 5th at 11 o'clock in Toronto. And they're about 45 degrees north latitude. And I always point to this constellation here, which is Scorpio. If you are in Toronto on that July day, you can see the entire constellation above the horizon. Yet in Edmonton on July 5th at 11 o'clock at night, or any time at night really, this is about all you will see of Scorpio. It never gets above the horizon. You never get to see its tail. You can just see its head and a little bit of its body, including the bright star Antares, the heart of the scorpion. Most of the information I use comes out of the Observer's Handbook, which is put out every year by the RASC Canada. It's 352 pages of all the information an observer could possibly want, and even more. Last month, I talked about Jupiter and Saturn and the moon forming triangles in the sky. This is a picture I took on the night of the 17th, where the moon was just below Saturn. You can see Saturn here, this faint little dot, the very, very bright moon here, and then Jupiter over there, and they make a nice little triangle. The following night, on the 18th, the moon was over here below Jupiter, but unfortunately it was cloudy that night and I couldn't get a picture. Before I go to the astronomy program, we'll just review what is in the sky in October. Falling leaves and cool evening, and the leaves are certainly falling. I picked all the leaves up in my yard yesterday, and today you wouldn't even know I did anything because there's more there. So Saturn and Jupiter will continue to dominate the evening sky. There's 2 meteor showers, no waiting this month. And the Messenger appears mid-month in the pre-dawn sky. Venus is very, very low in the southwest at dusk, and I will make mention of that in the planetarium portion. Now, this morning, October the 6th, the sun rose at 7:45 and it set at 6:57. So the days are definitely getting shorter. By the end of the month, on Halloween, on October 31st, it will rise at 8:32 and set at 6:02. I'm still a bit disconcerted when I wake up in the morning and it's still dark out. So this is the planetarium portion, and as before, I've pre-recorded this, so we'll start it here. Okay, we'll start tonight, and this is the sky at 8:45 over Edmonton tonight on October the 6th, 2021. And we can see all 4 Jovian planets. 2 of them are naked eye. 2 of them you would need good pair of binoculars or a small telescope would show them. So We see Saturn almost due south, and the much brighter Jupiter immediately to its left, and telescopic objects Neptune and Uranus, which today rose at 7:43. It'll reach opposition early in November. Now, if you have a medium-sized or a large telescope and the scene is good, you can watch shadow transits of Jupiter. And this is where the shadows of one of or more of the four Galilean moons, the four big moons of Jupiter, cross across the cloud tops of the planet. Now on the 18th of this month, there are two shadow transits, one of Ganymede and one of Io, and they go on through the night to the point where the planet sets. So let's identify the moons. There's Ganymede right there to the right of Jupiter, and there's Io to the left. So I'm going to run this simulation and you'll get the idea, and I start this at 8:45 at night. So there's the shadow of Ganymede crossing across Jupiter. You can notice Jupiter is spinning. A day on Jupiter is about 10 hours long. The planet spins extremely fast. And here comes Io, the innermost planet, or innermost moon I should say, and it has the fastest orbit also. Io's shadow shows up about midnight, and Ganymede's shadow leaves the planet at about 12:30. And we continue watching, and there, the planet has set. Now, if we follow the path of the planets throughout the month, starting today, you can see that each day, here comes the moon. On the 13th, it'll be below and to the right of Saturn. And on the 14th, it'll be below and to the right of Jupiter. As the month progresses, this is mid-month, the 15th. The moon goes past Neptune. 19th, on the 20th, it's full, and it is almost it's to the right of Uranus. You could use the moon on that night as a target to find Uranus. So we go through the month, we lose the moon, and the two bright planets are making their way ever westward until we reach Halloween night. It's also a minor planet, or a dwarf planet, Sirius, which is in Taurus over here at 8:45, and that can be seen with binoculars also. Now I've changed the time to 7 o'clock in the evening and set the date for October 29th, and I picked that date because Venus is at its greatest eastern elongation, which means it's as far away from the Sun as it's going to get on this cycle of its orbit. Now, if this was in the springtime, if this was March or April, Venus at its greatest eastern elongation would be very high up in the sky, and it would be above the horizon several hours after sunset. But because the ecliptic is so low in September and October, Venus is just hugging the horizon at 7 o'clock, the sun having set about an hour before on this particular day. And just to show how far away Venus is from the sun, I'm going to make the horizon disappear here, and let's see here. Oops. And it's a good 46 degrees away from the sun. Halfway up the sky if this was the spring, because Venus would be just about above the sun. But because the way the ecliptic is in the fall, it just hugs the horizon. Now, in more southern latitudes, like in southern Ontario and in the United States and such, Venus would be riding a lot higher. Now, there are a couple meteor showers this month, and I will talk about those a little later on in the program. But the first one happens on the evening of the 8th, and this is one of the rare meteor showers that happens in the early evening. Most of them happen after midnight when the Earth turns into the cloud of debris that is causing the meteor shower. But this one, the Draconids, named because the irradiant, which is right here, appears to come out of the constellation Draco, the dragon. There you go. There's his head. There's his tail. If you're a Harry Potter fan, Draco Malfoy's name came from this constellation. But anyway, the radiant is just off to the one side of his head. Draco's head is pretty easy to find. There's the pole star there. In the city, you can see these two. You can see Polaris, and you can see these two stars here at the end of the Dipper, or the body of the bear, if you will. And if you kind of draw a line across the end, you'll kind of sweep past Draco. But it's a okay meteor shower, but it has a very sharp peak. So depending on our luck, we may see only a few per hour, or you might see somewhere in the teens. It really depends. Seeing we're looking into the northern sky, we'll continue there. We can see Ursa Major, the Great Bear, or the Big Dipper, if you will, sitting with its bowl at 8:45, almost level with the horizon. And as you follow the arc of its handle, you come to the bright star Arcturus, which is dominates the summer sky, but is fading setting in the early evening, and it will eventually be gone from the early evening sky for a few short months. Now, last month I mentioned I had a story about the Big Dipper, and I've added some sky glow here to kind of illustrate the point. I got an email a few years back where a fellow was asking what happened to the bottom two stars of the Big Dipper, these two guys here. And he sent it, I think, in November or early December. And it was cold around that time, and it was very hazy. And what with the haze and the sky glow, these two stars just kind of disappeared into the mist. So I assured him that no, the stars have not gone out. They're still there. They're just you just can't see them because of the haze in the air. And in the early evening, the summer triangle is still well placed, almost directly overhead, but it is starting to head down closer to the horizon, and later on in the evening, around midnight, it is shifted quite a ways to the northwest. And there is the summer triangle with its brightest star, Vega, Deneb, and then Altair down in the constellation Aquila, the Eagle. And if you're up a little later, the constellations of the winter are now starting to make their appearance. This is 2 hours later, 10:45 on middle of the month, the 15th, and we can see Taurus well above the horizon, with the Hyades, the Pleiades. As I mentioned earlier, the dwarf planet Ceres is currently in Taurus and is easily seen with binoculars or a small telescope, and we can see the twin stars, or the twin stars of Gemini, Castor, and then Pollux just hugging the horizon at quarter to 11. And we can also see the club of Orion just starting to come up over the horizon, and his shield is also there, which means winter is coming and bringing the bright constellations of winter. Okay, we're going to go to the morning sky now. Now, here I've set the date at the 15th, middle of the month, and I've set the time at 7:20. The sun rises after 8 o'clock on this date, and will, of course, rise later as the month progresses. So, in terms of planets, we have Uranus, the dwarf planet Ceres, and way over here we got Mercury. Mercury is coming up, and it's going to put on a pretty good show, a really big shoe, this month in the morning sky. It'll be pretty easy to spot. So if we advance the days, every morning Mercury gets a little bit higher in the sky until we get to the 25th, when it is at its, what we call its greatest western elongation, when it's the furthest it gets from the sun in this part of its orbit. And then after the 25th, it will start to set. Here comes the moon, and by the first week of November, it is gone at 7:20 in the morning. And I mentioned there are 2 meteor showers in October. The second one is the Orionids. There's Orion. This is the radiant, just to the left of its club. It peaks on the morning of the 21st. This is the sky at 3:20 in the morning on the 21st. It's a pretty good shower. Unfortunately, we have a 1 day past full moon in the sky, so it's going to wash out all but the brightest meteors. As with the Draculids, or any meteor shower for that matter, if you want to observe it, it's best to get out of the city, get to a dark site. Of course, with the Orionids this year, the site, wherever you go, the site isn't going to be very dark just because of the full moon. However, it's worth a look if you're interested. The debris cloud that causes the Orionids is what's left behind from Halley's Comet. Before we leave the morning sky, this is 4 in the morning on in the middle of the month on the 15th, and all the stars of the winter are up. Taurus, Orion with its belt and its 4 bright stars on its corners. There's Canis Major, the great dog, with the brightest star we can see from Earth, Sirius. Gemini's up, Cancer's up, and Leo is up, although I associate Leo more as a spring constellation because in the spring it rises in the early evening. If we go looking north, we can see that the Ursa Major is starting to climb up to the sky in the early evening. In the spring it'll be high overhead, emptying its bowl down onto the earth, bringing the rains. So the legend says. The summer triangle, we only see 2 of the stars of the southern triangle now. Altair is below the horizon. This is where Cygnus and Lyra hang out during the winter in the evening sky. And that's about it for October. Okay, before I go any further, are there any questions?
Doing good so far. Thanks. Enjoying it.
Okay, great. Oh, yes. Okay.
What do you see when you look at the moon? When it's full and round, do you see a balloon? Does it look like a cookie with the bite taken out? What do you see when you look at the moon? It follows a path every month
Okay.
of the year.
The moon is new today. First quarter is on October the 12th. It is full on the 20th, and it is known in October as the Hunter's Moon. Also has other names, the Dying Grass Moon, for obvious reasons, the Blood Moon or the Sanguine Moon. I would presume the blood is a result of the hunters doing their work. And then last quarter is on the 28th. Now, the lunar feature, I usually pick from the Explore the Moon certificate program from the RASC. This is the map from the binocular version. There is also a telescope version. I'm taking this month's feature from the binocular version. And what I'm using today is the Altai Scarp, or Rupp's Altai. And you can barely see it there in this picture that I took some time ago. And this is a close-up view, and you can see it here. And there it is on an enlarged view. Now, the Altai Scarp is best seen 5 to 6 days after new moon. And what it is, it's a raised area, about 427 kilometers long from end to end. It's slightly curved, as you can see. And in some parts of it are over a kilometer high. It's the most prominent scarp on the near side of the moon that we can see. And it was created by the shock wave from the impact that created Mare Nectaris, or the Sea of Nectar. I'll just go back here. Which is this feature here. This was created by a massive object impacting the moon, and the shock wave passed through the body of the moon and created this scarp. Now there are 3 craters right here that you can see that will kind of point your way to the scarp. The first one is Theophilus, and it is a 100 kilometer wide crater named after a 4th century Coptic pope. Unfortunately, I put my star right over top. I'm just going to go back. It does have a 1,400 meter high central peak. Actually, that peak is made up of actually 4 different summits. The next one along the line is Cyrillus, and it is slightly smaller, 98 kilometers wide, and it is older than Theophilus, because Theophilus' wall kind of interferes with Cyrillus' wall. So Cyrillus was there first, and Theophilus came later. And as I said, it's a 98 kilometer wide crater, and it was also named after a 4th century Coptic pope and theologian. And the third one right here is Catharina. It's 100 kilometers wide, and it was named after Saint Catherine of Alexandria, who was a 4th century Christian martyr. And this is a better picture than anything I can take of the scarp. My pictures of the scarp were taken as the sun was rising on the scarp. And as you can tell from the shadows, the sun is coming from this direction. So this was taken as the sun was setting on the scarp. So you can see the shadow pattern is quite a bit different. Now, before I leave the moon, let me point out that October the 16th is International Observe the Moon Night. And this is something that's been going on for over 10 years. Now, in normal times, we would be doing this at our observatory, but of course our observatory has been closed since March of 2020. So this year, our center is planning on doing a live stream of the moon. We will have a camera hooked up to a telescope, and we will be broadcasting it on a Zoom channel. Once all the details are worked out, that link to that channel will be on our website at edmontonresc.com. If the weather is bad, there will be other streams across North America that you can tune in. And now, normally they do observe the moon night around first quarter, and on a Saturday. But unfortunately, the Saturday before the moon is just too thin, and from our latitude, it'd be just too low. We wouldn't be able to see much of it. So it's a 9-day-old moon. This is what it's going to look like. And as a reminder, it is October and it is Halloween. So if you're observing the moon, don't be surprised if some strange stuff happens.
Jeff,
Yes.
even if the weather is going to be inclement, to say the least, knowing our track record in Edmonton Center for big events is about 60-40 against. So
Right.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we get clouded out. But if we are still going to run a virtual event for probably about an hour, starting around 8:30, where we'll be discussing anything lunar. We'll be bringing in feeds from other locations, and we'll have something at least for an hour. If we're actually live, Jay and I will be able to bring up the moon. Jupiter and Venus are going to be, or not Venus, but Saturn will be in proximity as well. So we might move the scope over there as well.
Okay, yeah, that's Clayton Knoll, another one of our members, and he's our video whiz, and he'll be setting this live stream up. So the constellation that I picked this month is Vulpecula. Now, this is just the star field, and this is the astronomical drawings. Now, Vulpecula is one of those constellations like Aries the Ram, where I wondered, the people who could see a ram, or in this case, a fox, what were they smoking? Because this is a constellation right here. And it doesn't look like anything other than a corner or a hockey stick or something. But somehow you get a fox with a goose in its mouth out of that. What can I say? Vulpecula has no mythology with it. It is a very dim constellation. The brightest star in it is only magnitude 4.4, and it's 297 light years from here. It does have a bit of history. The very first pulsar was discovered in this constellation in 1967, which carries the name PSR 1919 plus 21, and it had a 1.3 second rotation. It has no named stars in it. Most constellations have at least one named star in it. The brightest star in it is just simply known as Alpha Vulpecula. So anyway, I picked it really because it has two notable features in it that are a favorite of observers. And they are the Dumbbell Nebula, which is here, and this guy down here, Bronchi's cluster, or otherwise known as the coat hanger. Now, M27, or the Dumbbell Nebula, is a planetary nebula. Not because it has anything to do with a planet, but William Herschel coined the name. William Herschel was the discoverer of Uranus, an English astronomer, where he and his sister Catherine made all sorts of discoveries with his telescope, which used a speculum metal mirror. Funny story, a couple of years ago, I was in England and we went on a tour, and one of the places we went to was Bath. And I didn't know William Herschel's workshop was in Bath. I was more interested in looking at the architecture, seeing the old Roman baths and such. And I probably walked right by his workshop and didn't realize it. So when I found that out, I was kind of kicking myself. Anyway, he named them planetary nebulas because after discovering Uranus, he thought these things kind of looked like planets in those early telescopes. And sometimes they take on a bit of a greenish hue, which is the color of Uranus. Planetary nebulas are the end phase of stars like our sun, where they swell up into red giants and shed layers of their atmosphere off into space. And the Dumbbell Nebula gets its name because of these double lobes on either side that kind of look like a dumbbell, and it's a very nice nice object from a dark site. And that's just another picture of it, longer exposure, as you can tell, with many more stars. Now, this is a photograph of the dumbbell. Now, if you looked at it through a telescope with our eyes, because our eyes don't see all those colors, cameras, film sees those colors, but our eyes don't. They're not sensitive to that wavelength of light. It might look like this, a gray greenish thing, or it just might look just gray. Now, as those of you who've seen these before, I'm not much of an astrophotographer, but I did try and take a picture of the dumbbell. And this was my first effort. And there it is. Not a very good picture, and the reviews were not very good. Here's one. Worst astrophoto ever. Now, the other feature in Vulpecula is Bronchi's cluster, or the coat hanger, and it's found right. This is from my planetarium program. There it is, there, just below the corner star of Vulpecula. I suppose the nose of the fox. Who knows? To find it, find Altair, and it's about a third of the way between Altair and Vega. If you drew a line between the two stars, you would go right past the coat hanger. Now, this is a picture I took of the coat hanger, which is a little bit better. Now, despite it being called, and there's another one, and here's a very nice picture of the coat hanger, where you can see some of the colors of the stars. Being called a coat hanger cluster, it is not a true astronomical cluster. These stars are not gravitationally bound to one another or traveling through space at the same time. They're just a random collection of stars that, happily for us, resolve themselves into this shape, into a familiar shape. The distance between these stars varies between 238 and 1200 light years. The brightest star is this guy here, which is known as 4 Vulpecula, and it has an orange hue. It's about 271 light years. So there it is, the coat hanger. It looks like its name. Other highlights this month. I mentioned this last month, but also early in the month before the moon reaches its full phase, in the pre-dawn sky, you can see the zodiacal light or false dawn. It is sunlight shining on dust along the plane of the solar system. We have, as I mentioned in the planetarium portion, the Dracoid meteor shower, which peaks on October the 8th in the early evening. And the Orionid shower, which peaks on October the 21st. And as I said before, there's a nearly full moon, which interferes with the amount of meteors you're going to see. Now, the Dracoids are from a comet 21P Jacobini-Zinner, which has a 6.6 year period, and it will be back in our neck of the woods in 2025. The rate of the Dracoids is variable. I could find no listing of how many meteors you might be able to see. But in past years, when the comet happens to be near the Earth, when the Earth happens to be passing through its tail, there have been meteor storms where up to 1,000 meteors a night. That won't be the case this year. And as I said in the astronomy program, it's an early evening meteor shower. The Orionids originate, as I said, from Comet Halley. The rate be 20 to 50 meteors per hour. It'll be less this year just because the moon is going to wash out the faintest of the meteors. And as always with any meteor shower, go to a dark site. And as I mentioned in the the planetarium program, the pre-dawn opportunity for Mercury later in October. Fleeting though it is, it's for me personally, it's a pleasure to always see Mercury because it travels so close to the sun. It's can be very difficult to see, but this year or this month should be easy to spot. And once again, we've got our meteor showers. Reviewing, there's the radiant for the Dracids. And there's the radiant for Orion. And of course, we have the full moon. Now we'll go to the space history part. Yes, very dramatic music. And as always, I always pick an item that happened in this month in an anniversary year that's divisible by 5. So a year that ends with 6 or 1. So the Earth from space has become a fairly common view. You can see them anywhere. There's a website you can go to where cameras aboard the ISS continually look down on the Earth, and you can just simply watch the world go by as the space station orbits the Earth. We also have weather satellites that keep an eye on our planet, warning us of hurricanes like this one here in the picture. There's also Earth resource satellites that watch the Earth. Landsat 9 was just launched, which gives us detailed views of all sorts of stuff, agricultural patterns, ice flows, etc. So Earth from space is a fairly common thing. Here's another view looking out over the ocean. And some of the views of Earth have people in them. Here's a couple astronauts doing a EVA at the International Space Station. And of course, this very famous picture taken in 1968 of the Earth taken from the moon, from lunar orbit by Apollo 8. And also very common are videos from rockets. They put cameras on the side of rockets and watch liftoff, the climb into orbit, views of the Earth as the rocket ascends. Now these aren't there just for our own curiosity. They're for engineering to observe what's going on the vehicle as it's climbing into space. After the Columbia accident, which was caused by a piece of foam coming off the tank and striking the orbiter in a very vulnerable spot, the space shuttle launches were festooned with cameras. There was cameras on the SRBs, cameras on the tanks, so that they could make sure that there was no debris hitting the orbiter on its ascent. So I put a little movie together of a few rocket cams.
Mysteries of the Red Planet. A view from the second stage of the Boeing Delta II vehicle as we continue to rise to look good.
That last one is a model rocket, which you can buy at hobby stores. It's a rocket and it has a little camera in it. You can do your own rocket cam with that for, I think they're $70 here in Edmonton. So what's all this about? Well, on October 24th, 1946, a captured V2 rocket was launched by the Americans from the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. They had launched a few of these V2s as America developed its own rocket program. But on this particular flight, they put a movie camera on the rocket. And it took the very first pictures of the Earth from space, from an altitude of 104 kilometers. And this is a frame grab from that movie, showing the Earth from space in a photograph for the very, very first time. What is common now was just considered absolutely amazing 75 years ago. Now I have a little newsreel clip of that launch.
So the huge missile takes off. Air Force pictures show the rocket in flight, and the flying camera automatically takes over. The huge projectile drops the Earth behind at the tremendous speed of 4,000 feet per second. The rotation of the rocket causes the planet to spin before the lens, and the camera photographs the Earth 65 miles straight down. The horizon, 720 miles away, and the curvature of the Earth are astonishingly apparent in this still picture from the film. An observer in the rocket could have seen San Diego, Salt Lake City, Kansas City, and San Antonio. Approximately 1,600,000 square miles of the Earth's surface was revealed. The rocket reached the 65-mile height in 3 minutes. This giant engine of destruction, designed by Hitler to annihilate allied nations, now serves the worthy cause of peacetime research.
I like some of the descriptions in the newsreel. The giant rocket, the V2 was 46 feet tall, and when you compare it to something like the SpaceX Falcon 9, which is a couple 100 feet tall. Anyway, different times. So I always reference heavensabove.com. It is a source for all sorts of astronomical information. You can put in your location down to your, if you have a GPS unit, you can put in your own backyard if you want, and it will show you the sky, give you satellite predictions. If you want to watch the International Space Station pass over, it's not visible in the evening hours or at nighttime right now, but it will be later on in the month, I'm sure. Or any other satellite passes or iridium flares, planets, upcoming comets, meteor showers, etc. It's got all sorts of information. Our next What's Up is going to be on Wednesday, November the 3rd. Our regular meeting of the RASC Edmonton. Normally we do these on the second week of the month, but the 11th is Thanksgiving, so we've pushed it back to the third week. So it's going to be on the 18th at 7:30. There will be a Zoom link on our website. It's not there yet. I asked the person in charge, how come? He says he's working on it. And also Alistair Ling does his introduction to stargazing every month, and his next session is on Wednesday, October the 27th. All these go at 7:30 Mountain Time. And with that, I will say thank you. And are there any questions?
How'd they get the footage from that first rocket?
How did I get the footage?
How did they, if they rocketed it up? It's not like they had Wi-Fi, I'm assuming.
Oh, no,
beaming it
no.
back. Did they
Yeah,
recover it?
Yeah, no, it was a 16mm film camera. And screen sharing stop. Okay, and I imagine that it was in a pod that was ejected and it would come down on a parachute. The very famous footage of the Saturn V staging, that's how they did it. They put 16mm movie cameras into the base of the second stage, and they were timed to turn on just before the rocket staged, and then they were ejected and they would float down onto a parachute and they would be recovered. Actually, if you ever see the whole film of those staging, right at the end of the film, you see the camera start to move forward, and that is it's shooting off a little rail, and then it disconnects because it loses its power, and it just comes down on a parachute. So I imagine they did the same thing that way.
That's wild. That's so cool. Thanks.
Yeah, now it's all video and they just transmit it live. So any other questions? Oh, I just saw Clayton's message to make him a co-host. When I have my PowerPoint on, I can't actually see the chat section. Sorry, Clayton.
No need, no need. We're good.
Do you want to show something, or do you want me to make you a co-host?
No, that's fine. We're good.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I will say thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. This is recorded, and I will post it on YouTube in the next day or two. I'll clean out some of the errors and such, and add a bit of music at the beginning and with the title and at the end. So I'll pick something appropriately spooky for Halloween, like my background.
It's a good background. Well, thanks, Jeff. Thanks from Mock Island.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.